You're watching a Fox Sports presentation of B.A.S.S.
Well, it is going on right now. The St. Croix Bassmaster Open at Lake Ouachita in Arkansas, presented by 7. Live coverage is going to be brought to you by Maxim. We have got a big tournament, second stop of the year in the Bassmaster Opens 2024. Had a big win in Okeechobee to begin things, and we've got 199 anglers out there doing their very best in the second day of 3 days of fishing at Lake Ouachita. They're in the Ouachita Mountains in western Arkansas. Tommy Sanders here with Ronnie Moore. And Ronnie, it's been more than 20 years since the Bassmasters has been here.
2002, Tommy, was the last time BASS has been here, and Greg Hackney won the Central Open, stop number 2 at Ouachita then. He was way behind leader Stephen Browning, but after a tough final day, he was able to jump in front and win that event. As we take a look at our unofficial results via Bass Track right now with a few hours left of fishing for some of these anglers. Paul Marks, if that name looks familiar, it's because he got a top 5 at Okeechobee, and he's at the top of our unofficial leaderboard right now. You've got Richard Lewitsky, Evan Kung from Canada, Dakota Ebear, last man to sign up for the Opens, and he's making it worthwhile in these first 2 events.
Absolutely. Logan Johnson, Joey Nania, Colin Crawford, Eastern, Fothergill, Clark Ream, and Tucker Smith, who have all had good tournaments to start the year down at Okeechobee. Did have a blast down there at Okeechobee. Ronnie Moore, and we can't wait to bring you what's going to happen here, because these are 2 critical events right here. If you didn't get a good start at Lake Okeechobee, you have to make something happen here.
Yes, Tommy. In theory, if you have a bomb any of these 9 events, it counts the same. But if you did struggle in the first one, you have to catch them in the second one. You'll need to catch them at Santee Cooper and keep the momentum going. But if you did start off on the right foot down in Florida, boy, are you in a good spot if you're doing well at Lake Ouachita as well. And speaking of Florida, we had one of our Elite Series pros fishing his home body of water, hoping to get a victory, and Scott Martin did just that in his hometown of Clewiston, the first time we've been there since 1991, and he set some records, Tommy.
Absolutely. Well, of course, Scott Martin, a full-time elite angler, couldn't pass up a chance there on his home waters. You can see Lake Okeechobee, and there's our map of the 9 events that make up the St. Croix Bassmaster Opens for this 2024 season. See Lake Okeechobee. We move here to Lake Ouachita. From there, South Carolina, Lake Murray, Logan Martin, and onward it goes.
Yeah, you'll be in Eufaula, Oklahoma. We're going to go through so many states, and then we'll go up to the upper Midwest, and Minnesota and Wisconsin, and even Michigan will be on the open schedule this year. It's going to be a great year for the Bassmaster Opens, and in this first one, we did crown a champion who set an all-time record for 3 days of an open, 90 pounds, 6 ounces, and then he also broke a single-day record. Scott Martin did 33 pounds, 2 ounces on day 1, both of those topping it. And then he also, why don't you just go and win by the most margin of victory ever for a Bassmaster Open series, 21+ pounds for him. So it was a momentous start to our 2024 season and live coverage.
No doubt about it. Some footage from day number 1. On day number 1, Scott Martin was out there without his usual graphics and everything, sort of being a little bit sneaky out there, but he said patience was what it was all about. He had the spot identified, he had the locale, and he really worked it all tournament long.
We got to see in our top 10 5 different regions, roughly with 2 anglers in each region factor for Lake Okeechobee. And the area that Scott Martin was in, there were over 50 anglers in that Harney Pond North Shore region, yet 2 survived. Easton Fothergill, who caught a 9-1 on the final day. He went from 10th and moved up to 7th on that final day. And Scott Martin, he was a little incognito, no boat wrap yet. Some sponsor changes in the offseason, Tommy. Took his time to get his boat wrap. He had the face guard all the way up, keeping a low profile, but boy, he brought him to the scales, and it was what an incredible way we start our season. He was the first man out of the Bassmaster Classic. He will not be at Grand Lake competing in this year's Classic, so why don't you just make up for that and be the first man in for the 2025 Classic, which we just announced was Lake Ray Roberts late March next year.
Well, it was a pleasure to watch him at work. Not every day started out as quickly as the first day. He did have a late start, especially on day number 3, but he really got it going. Patience, he says, is what drove him all the way through.
One thing that he mentioned, yes, patience, fishing slower than some others, and also not being afraid to use a bait caster and a Texas rig. Flipping a Texas rig around, a lot of guys were fishing the highly pressured area with spinning rods, wacky rigs, things like that. He stayed with more of a power fishing scenario and was able to catch bigger fish, catching 9 pounds or so on day 1, catching multiple 8s. Scott Martin was your champion, not only making the Classic, but getting some historical significance, winning there where his father held up the trophy the last time we were in Clewiston back in 1991. All the other times we've been there, we've taken out of the north end of the lake. Scott winning with some home cooking in front of the family.
Very, very sentimental time for Scott Martin, and hey, hats off to him. What a record-busting performance once again, you have to recognize. At one point, Ronnie, we were wondering if he might break 100 pounds.
We were hoping
for 3 days of fishing.
Another 10-pounder, he would have called out a 2-pounder. He might have done it, but it would have been something special. 90 pounds, 6 ounces for 3 days, absolutely incredible, beating the record by 10 pounds that Gerald Swindle had. And that takes us to, though, the other race within the race. He won the first event, but is only fishing that division. For those who are fishing all 9, they are a part of our Tackle Warehouse Elite Qualifier points race. Tucker Smith, Randall Tharp, they were 2nd and 3rd in the tournament. That means they are the first 2 in the points race after Lake Okeechobee to kick off our year.
Of course, the top 9 at the end of the season, points-wise, will get entry into the Bassmaster Elite Series.
Obviously, we will update.
Yeah, and it will be updated.
Those points tomorrow.
You got yourself a good start there. You are in good shape here, especially if you're doing good at this point in the proceedings on beautiful Lake Ouachita. There's Brady Mountain Dam right there. The first impoundment on that river as it moves 600 miles down to the Mississippi from the Ouachitas.
So Lake Ouachita is very intriguing. It has standing timber galore for these anglers to fish around and above and through. There's also plenty of submerged vegetation in certain areas of the lake. You also have 2 forks, 2 arms of a river to the west that you can go to for dirtier water. But Tommy, with all of the rain, cold weather, cloudy conditions we had in practice, they got a big switch up on day 1. They had 65 to 70 degrees, sunny, bluebird, calm day. It was a great boating day.
Sure.
Not a great fishing day, yet we still saw Mike Sermon bring in 20-plus pounds to lead. We saw a couple 19-pound bags. We saw a few locals who were only fishing this event in our top 10. And we also saw almost a 10-pounder on day 1. Evan Kung, a 9.14. So we're going to see some big ones show up, especially with the way the weather's trending for Saturday.
Beautiful lake, as you can tell. What a beautiful part of the country. What a tourist destination this place is. Famous Oaklawn Park right there for over a century. One of the top racing destinations in the United States, and this entire area, dating back well into the 19th century, has been a great resort place there. Our unofficial standings right now, as it stands, the Bassmaster Open at Lake Ouachita, and Paul Marks of Georgia has moved up to the top. That's significant because Paul had a great tournament down at Okeechobee.
Yes, he would be your EQ points leader if this was the official leaderboards. We'll make it official for our top 10 later today. In just a few hours, weigh-in will fire up, but Paul Marks with a 4th place. Off to a great start here as well. Tucker Smith, his roommate, their traveling partners, he got 2nd, and he's in the top 10 as well. Easton Fothergill, our classic qualifier from the College Series, in the top 10 as well. Keep an eye on a lot of young guys, and we're going to see some veterans rise up with the changing weather today for sure. I'm going to head to the weigh-in right now, Tommy. I'm going to go there and check it out.
Head that way. Tomorrow we will be here with full coverage. The final days, festivities there, the St. Croix Bassmaster Open at Lake Ouachita, 7:30 a.m. Eastern Time on FS1, continuing later on Bassmaster.com and the digital platforms.